The night that took everything asterisk asterisk. The night was unusually still. No wind. No distant horns. No barking dogs. It was the kind of silence that feels heavy, as if the world itself is holding its breath. At the edge of the city stood a modest house, old, but full of life. Warm yellow light escaped through its windows, carrying with it the smell of tea and home-cooked food. Inside lived Ion, 16 years old, a boy with honest eyes and dreams far bigger than his circumstances. "Close the gate properly, Ion," his mother called out from the kitchen. Ion smiled as he pushed the gate shut. "Yes, Ammi. You worry too much." His father looked up from his chair, newspaper resting on his lap. "In this world," he said calmly, "only those who worry survive." Ion laughed. "If that's true, then I'll survive forever." None of them knew that this was the last time they would laugh together. 3 black SUVs stopped a short distance away. Engines died. Doors opened quietly. Men stepped out, well-dressed, confident, powerful. Their shoes were too clean for this neighborhood. One of them lit a cigarette, the flame briefly revealing his cold eyes. "Is this the house?" one man asked. "Yes," another replied. The owner refused again. The first man exhaled smoke. Then tonight, he learns the price of refusal. Ion's father walked toward the window. He froze. 3 figures stood near the gate. His face lost its color. "Shabnam," he said softly to his wife. "Turn off the lights." Ion sensed something was wrong. "Abba?" His mother grabbed his arm tightly. "Go to the back room. Now." "But what's happening?" She didn't answer. Glass shattered. Petrol splashed against the walls. The smell hit first, sharp, deadly. Then fire. Flames climbed the curtains like hungry beasts. Smoke filled the air, thick and choking. "Fire! They've set the house on fire," his father shouted. Outside, laughter echoed. Ion's heart pounded as if it wanted to escape his chest. He coughed, his eyes burning. "Ammi," he cried. The fire spread fast. Too fast. Ion's mother dragged him toward the back window. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was firm. "Listen to me carefully," she said, holding his face. "You must jump." "No. You come with me." She shook her head. Tears streamed down her face, mixing with soot. "If you live," she whispered, "we live." She opened the window. Flames roared behind them. "Don't look back," she said, pushing him toward the edge. "Run. Live. Remember." And then she pushed him. Ion hit the ground hard. Pain shot through his legs, but he didn't scream. He looked up. His house was on fire. His home. His parents. "Ammi," he screamed, his voice tearing through the night. No answer came. Only fire. By sunrise, nothing remained. Just ashes. Broken walls. Silence. The police arrived late. "It looks like an accident," one officer said casually. Ion stared at him, his face covered in ash. "It wasn't," he whispered. But no one listened. Across the city, 3 men sat in a luxurious cafe, sipping tea. "One small house," one of them said. "Problem solved." They laughed. And in the ruins of his home, a boy sat quietly, his eyes dry, his hands trembling, not from fear, but from something far more dangerous. That night, Ion didn't cry. He didn't scream. He only remembered. And somewhere deep inside him, a fire was born. A fire that would one day remember them too. A boy who survived the fire ***. Morning arrived, but it brought no warmth. The sun rose over ashes, broken bricks, and the remains of what was once a home. Smoke still curled lazily into the air, as if the fire itself refused to leave. Ion sat on the ground, unmoving. His clothes were burned at the edges. His face was streaked with ash. His eyes stared at the ruins, not searching, not hoping, just staring. A police officer approached him and crouched down. "Son, you need to come with us." Ion didn't respond. "What's your name?" Silence. The officer sighed and gently placed a hand on his shoulder. Ion flinched. "Don't touch me," he said suddenly. His voice was dry, empty. The officer pulled his hand back. The fire was declared an accident within hours. Electrical short circuit. 2 words that buried 2 lives. Ion watched as the bodies of his parents were taken away, covered in white sheets. He wanted to scream. He wanted to run. He wanted to grab the sheets and prove they were wrong. Instead, he stood still. Something inside him had frozen. "Any relatives?" another officer asked. Ion shook his head. Just like that, he became alone. Across the street, 3 men stood inside a black car. Through tinted windows, they observed everything. "The boy survived," one said calmly. "Yes," another replied. "He saw nothing." The third man smiled. Even if he did, who would believe a child? The car drove away. Ion saw it. He remembered it. He was placed in the back of a government vehicle. The city passed by outside the window, people walking, shops opening, life continuing. How could the world keep moving? Ion pressed his forehead against the glass. "Why am I still alive?" he whispered. No one answered. High walls. Iron gates. Children's voices echoed inside, laughter, crying, shouting. The sound felt wrong. The warden looked at Ion's file. "Another one," she muttered. She handed him old clothes and pointed to a dormitory. "You'll stay here." That was it. No comfort. No questions. That night, Ion lay on a thin mattress, staring at the ceiling. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw fire. He smelled petrol. He heard his mother's voice. "Don't look back." His hands clenched into fists. The next day at lunch, a bigger boy snatched Ion's food. "New kid," he laughed. "Learn the rules." Ion said nothing. The boy reached again. This time, Ion grabbed his wrist. "Let go," the boy shouted. Something snapped. Ion punched him, hard. The room froze. The boy fell, blood pouring from his nose. For a moment, Ion felt nothing. Then came the punishment. He was beaten. Locked in a dark room. Left alone. But as pain spread through his body, one thought repeated in his mind: pain can be survived. That night, sitting alone in the dark, Ion spoke to the silence. "They laughed," he whispered. "They burned everything." His voice didn't shake. "I won't forget." For the first time since the fire, a tear rolled down his cheek, not from weakness, but from resolve. "I will become strong." Outside, the city slept peacefully. Inside, a boy made a promise that would shape his destiny. Before dawn, Ion climbed the orphanage wall. His hands bled. His heart raced. He didn't look back. By morning, his bed was empty. On the wall, scratched with a stone, were 4 words. The streets taught him to breathe ****. The city did not welcome Ion. It ignored him. He walked through narrow streets before sunrise, barefoot, hungry, invisible. Shops opened their shutters, tea stalls came alive, buses roared past, but no one noticed the boy with burned clothes and empty eyes. By noon, his stomach burned worse than the fire ever had. He stood outside a bakery, watching bread being placed behind glass. The smell tortured him. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from weakness. He reached for a discarded crust near a trash bin. A man kicked it away. "Get lost." Ion didn't argue. He had already learned something important: the streets don't reward pride. They reward survival. That night, he slept under a bridge. The concrete was cold. Rats moved freely. Drunk men shouted somewhere nearby. Ayan hugged his knees, staring at the dark water below. Every sound felt like danger. He didn't sleep. He stayed awake because sleep meant dreams, and dreams meant fire. Days passed. Ayan begged. Sometimes he stole. Once, he was caught stealing an apple. The shopkeeper slapped him hard. Blood filled his mouth. Next time, I'll break your hands, the man warned. Ayan wiped his lips and walked away. Inside his mind, something changed. Hands can be broken, he thought. But fear can't, unless you let it. One evening, 3 older boys cornered him in an alley. You sleep under our bridge, one said. You pay rent. Ayan shook his head. The first punch came fast. He fell, but he didn't stay down. He fought like an animal, wild, desperate, reckless. He lost. Badly. But as he lay bleeding on the ground, gasping for air, he realized something terrifying and beautiful. He didn't give up. You'll die if you keep fighting like that. The voice came from the shadows. An old man stood there, tall, lean, eyes sharp like they had seen too much of the world. Why do you care? Ayan spat. The old man studied him. Because anger like yours doesn't belong on the street. It belongs somewhere else. He handed Ayan a bottle of water. Ayan hesitated, then drank. Weeks passed. Ayan's body hardened. His eyes changed. He still felt hunger, but now he also felt purpose. One night, after training, Ayan asked quietly, "Why are you helping me?" Ibrahim looked away. Because once, he said, someone helped me too late. That night, lying on the rooftop of an abandoned building, Ayan stared at the stars. For the first time since the fire, he slept. Not because the pain was gone, but because he finally knew where to place it. Inside him, the boy who survived the fire was no longer just surviving. He was preparing. And far away, in air-conditioned rooms and expensive suits, the men who burned his world slept peacefully, unaware that the streets were sharpening their punishment. The making of a weapon ****. The body adapts before the mind does. Ayan learned this on the first morning Ibrahim pushed him beyond his limits. Before sunrise, while the city still slept, Ayan was already running. His feet slapped against empty roads, lungs burning, chest tightening. Sweat mixed with dust on his skin. Don't run fast, Ibrahim called from behind. Run long. Ayan wanted to stop. Every muscle screamed. He didn't. Training was brutal. Push-ups until his arms shook. Fighting stances until his legs collapsed. Silence, long, uncomfortable silence. Whenever Ayan lost control, Ibrahim struck the ground with his stick. Anger makes you loud, Ibrahim said. Control makes you deadly. Once, Ayan exploded. I want them dead, he shouted, tears in his eyes. Ibrahim slapped him, hard. The sound echoed. If you chase revenge with rage, Ibrahim said coldly, you'll die before you reach it. Ayan lowered his head. That day, he learned restraint. Weeks turned into months. Ayan's hands blistered, healed, blistered again. His back carried scars from endless training. At night, he collapsed onto the rooftop floor, staring at the sky, too tired to dream. But something else was happening. His punches were sharper. His breathing calmer. His eyes, focused. The fire inside him wasn't gone. It was contained. Ibrahim didn't only teach him how to fight. He taught him how to observe. Watch people, Ibrahim said at a crowded market. Everyone shows weakness. Ayan noticed things now, the nervous tapping of fingers, the way lies changed voices, how power made men careless. Knowledge became another weapon. One evening, Ibrahim threw a knife at the ground between them. Pick it up. Ayan did. Now, Ibrahim said calmly, protect yourself. 3 men attacked from the shadows. Ayhan's heart jumped, but his body moved. He dodged. Blocked. Struck. He was hit, thrown, kicked. But he didn't freeze. When it ended, Ayhan stood breathing hard, bruised but standing. Ibrahim nodded. You survived, he said. Next time, you'll dominate. Armin didn't rush. For weeks, he watched. He attended charity events where rich men smiled for cameras. He sat in meetings where numbers decided lives. He listened more than he spoke. And he saw them. The 3 men. Older. Heavier. More powerful. They laughed easily. They've forgotten, Armin said quietly to Ibrahim over the phone. That's good, Ibrahim replied. Memory makes people careful. The next week, rumors began. A delayed project. A missing approval. An anonymous complaint. Nothing big. But enough to create irritation. Raghav slammed his desk. Find out who's doing this. His assistant shook his head. No trace, sir. Armin watched from a distance. The first crack had formed. One evening, Armin saw a familiar uniform. Inspector Kabir. Older. Broken. Drinking alone. The man who had once signed the report, accidental fire. Armin sat across from him. Do you remember a house that burned 12 years ago? Armin asked calmly. Kabir looked up. His hand trembled. Kabir's eyes locked onto Armin's. For a moment, the past rushed back. I don't remember, Kabir whispered. Armin leaned closer. You will. He placed his card on the table. Call me when you're ready to tell the truth. Armin stood and walked away. Kabir stared at the card, sweat on his forehead. A ghost had returned. That night, Raghav Malhotra woke up screaming. He dreamed of fire. He didn't know why. Across the city, Armin stood at his window, looking at the same the woman who asked questions ****. Sarah Khan didn't believe in coincidences. When 3 unrelated construction delays appeared in the same company within a single month, she noticed. When anonymous complaints surfaced with perfect timing, she investigated. She had learned long ago that power leaves fingerprints, if you know where to look. She stared at her laptop screen late into the night, newsroom lights dimmed around her. This isn't bad management, she murmured. This is pressure. Armin first saw Sarah at a press conference. She stood out, not because she was loud, but because she was precise. Every question she asked made powerful men uncomfortable. Mr. Malhotra, she said calmly, can you explain why your project approvals were cleared last year but suddenly rejected this month? Raghav forced a smile. Bureaucratic delays. Sarah didn't smile back. Armin observed her from the back of the hall. Sharp. Fearless. Dangerous. Not to him, but to his enemies. That night, he ordered a background check. Independent journalist. No political masters. A history of exposing corruption. She could ruin everything, his advisor warned. Armin shook his head. She could also help. Sarah requested an interview with Armin Reyes. She had noticed his name quietly appearing around the same companies facing trouble. Armin agreed. They met in a quiet cafe. You invest in struggling companies, Sarah said. Why? Armin smiled slightly. Because I like fixing broken things. She studied him. And people? Especially people. Sarah leaned forward. You're not just a businessman. Armin met her gaze. And you're not just curious. For a moment, silence filled the space between them. They both understood something dangerous, they were standing on the same battlefield. Just fighting for different reasons. That night, Sarah revisited an old case. A fire. A disputed piece of land. 3 powerful names. Her instincts screamed. She wrote the title of a new file, The Fire That Wasn't an Accident. The next day, Sarah received a call. "Drop the story," a calm voice warned. "It's not safe." She laughed. "Then it's important." The line went dead. Ibrahim called Armin. "Careful," he said. "Truth is unpredictable." Armin looked out at the city lights. "So is fire." Raghav Malhotra slammed a newspaper on his desk. "Who is digging this up?" he shouted. His partner swallowed. "A journalist." Raghav's eyes darkened. "Handle her." Across the city, Sarah sat at her desk, unaware that she had just stepped into a war. "And Armin?" Armin smiled. Because the game was no longer silent. When truth becomes a target ***. The first threat came quietly. An envelope lay on Sarah Khan's desk when she returned from lunch. No sender. No stamp. Just her name written neatly in black ink. Inside was a single photograph. Her apartment. Taken from across the street. Below it, 3 words were written. Sarah didn't scream. She closed the envelope, slid it into her bag, and went back to her computer. Fear, she knew, was exactly what they wanted. That evening, her editor called her in. "Sarah," he said carefully, "we're receiving calls." She leaned back. "From who?" "People who don't like being named." Sarah nodded. "Then we're close." The editor sighed. "I can't protect you forever." She stood. "I'm not asking you to." It happened at night. Sarah left the newsroom late, rain pouring down, streets nearly empty. She unlocked her car when footsteps echoed behind her. "Ms. Khan," a voice said. She turned. 2 men stepped forward. "Some stories are better left buried," one said. Sarah raised her phone. The first punch knocked it away. Before the second could land, a car screeched to a halt. Headlights blinded them. A man stepped out. "Get away from her." "Armin, raise." The men hesitated. Armin didn't raise his voice. "You touch her again," he said calmly, "and you won't walk away." Something in his tone made them retreat. They disappeared into the rain. Inside the car, silence stretched. "You followed me," Sarah finally said. "I was already nearby," Armin replied. She laughed bitterly. "They're scared." "Yes," Armin said. "And now, so are you." She turned to him. "You knew this would happen." "Yes." "Why didn't you warn me?" Armin looked straight ahead. "Because you wouldn't have stopped." She said nothing. Inside the car, silence stretched. "You followed me," Sarah finally said. "I was already nearby," Armin replied. She laughed bitterly. "They're scared." "Yes," Armin said. "And now, so are you." She turned to him. "You knew this would happen." "Yes." "Why didn't you warn me?" Armin looked straight ahead. "Because you wouldn't have stopped." She said nothing. At her apartment, Sarah confronted him. "This isn't just journalism for you," she said. "This is personal." Armin closed the door behind them. "Barry." She waited. "My parents died in that fire," he said quietly. The words hung in the air. Sarah's anger faded, replaced by shock. "You're that boy." "Yes." Sarah sat down slowly. "I thought I was chasing a story," she whispered. "I didn't know I was walking into someone's past." Armin knelt in front of her. "And I didn't plan on pulling anyone else into it." She met his eyes. "But you did." "Yes." Raghav Malhotra threw the envelope across the room. "She didn't stop," he snarled. His partner swallowed. "Then we escalate." From opposite sides of the city, 2 people stared into the darkness. Sarah, knowing she had crossed a line she could never uncross. Armin, knowing that the war had finally become visible. Fire had a memory. And it had begun to speak. Buried truths rise ***. Truth doesn't surface loudly. It whispers first. Sarah sat in her apartment surrounded by files, photographs, and old newspaper clippings. The fire case lay open on her screen, 12 years old, officially closed, officially forgotten. But patterns were forming. Land disputes. Political donations. Witnesses who disappeared. This wasn't a fire, she said softly. Armin stood by the window, watching the city. It was a message. They found Inspector Kabir at a roadside bar. Older. Thinner. Haunted. You signed the report, Sarah said calmly. Electrical short circuit, Kabir laughed bitterly. I signed what I was told to sign. His hands shook as he lifted his glass. They threatened my family, he whispered. They paid me too. Armin said nothing. His silence was heavier than anger. Kabir's voice broke. I heard them laugh, he said. While the house burned. Sarah recorded everything. Armin turned away. The boy inside him screamed. The evidence led to a mid-level contractor. Bribes. False permits. Paid silence. Sarah published the story. By morning, the contractor was arrested. News channels exploded. For the first time in 12 years, the word fire returned to headlines. That night, Sarah found Armin on the rooftop. They're afraid now, she said. Armin nodded. But fear makes men dangerous. She sat beside him. You've carried this alone for too long, he exhaled slowly. I don't know who I am without it. She didn't answer. She just stayed. The next day, Sarah's bank account was frozen. Her editor was pressured. Anonymous lawsuits appeared overnight. They're trying to silence you legally, Armin said. Sarah smiled grimly. They're late. That night, a car followed Sarah home. It didn't attack. It didn't need to. It stayed close enough to be noticed. A reminder. Raghav Malhotra met his partners. This ends now, he said coldly. No witnesses. No stories. They nodded. Outside, thunder rolled. Armin stood alone in the rain. For the first time, he allowed himself to feel the rage he had locked away. Not this time, he whispered. He wasn't the boy in the ashes anymore. And this time, he wouldn't let the fire take anyone else. The fire finds peace ***. The attempt came before dawn. 2 cars blocked Sarah's street. Men stepped out quickly, efficiently, people who had done this before. One of them reached for her apartment door. They never made it inside. Police sirens cut through the silence. Red and blue lights flooded the street. The men ran, but it was too late. This time, the trap was theirs. Armin had anticipated it. They will attack, he had told Sarah the night before. Power always does when it feels cornered. What Raghav Malhotra didn't know was that Armin had already given everything to the authorities: documents, recordings, financial trails, Kabir's confession. Not anonymously. Openly. Publicly. Fearlessly. By noon, the city was shaking. Breaking news. Live arrests. Court orders. Raghav Malhotra was taken from his office in handcuffs. Cameras caught his face, confused, angry, terrified. This is a conspiracy, he shouted. The truth didn't answer. It didn't need to. Armin visited the courthouse. For the first time in 12 years, he stood in front of the man who burned his world. Raghav looked at him carefully. Who are you? He demanded. Armin leaned closer. You laughed that night, he said quietly. I remember. Raghav's eyes widened. You. I was the boy who lived. Silence fell between them. For the first time, Raghav Malhotra was afraid. The trial moved fast. Too much evidence. Too many witnesses. Too much public pressure. Life imprisonment. No political escape. No money loopholes. As the judge spoke, Armin closed his eyes. The fire was finally over. Weeks later, the city returned to normal. But Armin didn't. He stood at the place where his house once stood, now an empty plot. Sarah stood beside him. "It's done," she said softly. "Yes," he replied. "But it didn't give me what I thought it would." She looked at him. "Peace?" He nodded. Armin sold his companies. He donated the money to fire victims, to orphan children, to people forgotten like he once was. "I don't want my life to be built on destruction," he said. Sarah wrote the story of the fire. She never used his name. Some heroes don't need headlines. At the railway station, Armin carried one small bag. "Where will you go?" Sarah asked. "Somewhere quiet," he smiled. "Somewhere the fire can't reach." She hugged him. "Live," she said. "For all of them." "I will," he promised. The train moved. The city disappeared. Armin Reyes faded into memory. Ion finally returned. Not as a victim. Not as a weapon. But as a man who survived fire, and chose not to become it. And somewhere in the quiet distance, the fire that once remembered everything, finally forgot. One like from you supports our hard work, and one subscribe helps us bring more powerful stories to you.